Hello. I am Cade, and welcome to Double Feature Movie Club. I am your host. I've already said my name there, and we are talking about the movies Boy and Ruby Sparks. Getting a little bit of feedback. Can you hear that, Diane?
Yes.
Okay. I'll wait a second, and we're here joined today with Diane and Ava. How are you guys doing today?
Hola.
Good. So it's the first time we had Ava on, and she's been a big fan of ours, though. She's probably our biggest fan here on our live stream. And it is also, coincidentally, her birthday. So happy birthday,
Ava!
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have you been enjoying the show thus far?
Oh, yes. Yes. I don't miss it very often, and I'm glad Ollie is here. He's wishing me a happy birthday.
Yes, I think so.
Thank you, Ollie.
Yes, he is. You know, Ollie, he's in the middle of it at all times.
Yeah. And so how do you and Diane know each other?
Oh
my God.
I'll let Diane tell the story. I'm not sure how much she wants to tell.
We have known each other since 2008, and that's all we're going to give up.
Okay. So yeah, that's good.
So we're and you know, one of the reasons I'm a big fan is because I get to see Diane. We could probably count on one hand how many times we've seen each other in person.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, I was trying to think of the last time.
Well, the last time was when I was working in Dallas, and you came down with Chris, and we went to the Botanic Gardens. That was the last time we saw each other in person. So I've enjoyed the whole show. I enjoy you, Cade, and Diane, and your other guests. But that's what really started it, was to get to at least see Diane's face. We don't do video calls either. We text.
We text, we messenger. We watched shows together.
Okay.
Like, we're big Top Chef fans. We watched Top Chef. We watched Masked Singer once.
We watched Masked Singer
once. Amazing Race. We watched it.
Yeah. The Chase now. Hey, do you watch The Chase?
The trivia, the Beast. I watched that whenever it was, I think, first around, like a few years back. But yeah.
It's on
we
again.
recorded.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
We watched. What was the? Go ahead, Diane.
We recorded it because you and I would do trivia on Tuesday nights when it was aired. Now we've moved our trivia to Wednesday nights, so Ava and I can watch it together on
live now.
Tuesday. Live now. So and then we talk to each other all the time about movies we've watched and TV shows, and she's a huge fan of Hacks.
Okay.
Yes.
I haven't seen the new season yet, so I haven't watched it yet.
It's I would highly recommend it. So my top three are I'd have to say, I think The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel has taken my number one spot, but then it's Hacked and Grace and Frankie.
Oh, we love Grace and Frankie here. Yeah.
We do.
That's of all time, and I watched a lot of TV.
Yeah. You know, if she would have been with us Wednesday night when we were playing trivia, we probably could have won.
Yeah.
She would have known.
Why? What was it? What were the questions?
One of them was like, name all. I think the one she's referencing is name all the people who have won Best Lead Actress in a Best Lead Actress Emmy, right? Award since 2018.
In comedy.
Oh no, I don't know that I would know that.
Yeah, because the answer was Hacks, The Marvelous Miss Maisel. Yeah.
We got Gene Smart, but we did not get Marvelous Miss Maisel for winning. That was the one that we missed.
You're talking about shows or actresses?
The actresses who won Best Lead Actress. Okay. So yeah, she won. We missed that.
We missed Rachel Brosnahan. I know has won, but I didn't think she'd won that many times.
Well, no, she's just won the once. It was just name all the ones. It was name all the people who've won since that period of time. So yeah, Rachel Brosnahan was
2018.
yeah,
Okay.
and then Phoebe Waller-Bridge we also missed for Fleabag, and then but Jean Smart and who was the other one that we got? We got another one. Yeah, I don't remember. We got another one though. But also, I was
Just
talking.
having Rachel though, we would have won.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Whenever I went through that with Harrison, he got the other Russian president. So if Harrison wasn't was able to make it, we would have won then too. Yeah.
The next time Ava comes down to Oklahoma, I'm bringing her to trivia.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have a much more slated idea of my trivia knowledge. Maybe in my younger days. Now, not now. It's like
I bet she knows all. I bet she knows all the Canadian provinces, though. So, and the Great Lakes. I mean, no.
No, I got in trouble. In fact, with a Canadian, I often go up to Banff, the Canadian Rockies, and I didn't know what province it was, and it got me in a lot of trouble with a Canadian. I've been up there I don't know how many times, but they're like, what?
Yeah.
Beautiful mountains. I know Calgary. I know Banff. I know Jasper. I know. Oh, sorry, you don't know the province.
Yeah.
Can you name all 50 states? That's what I should have said to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you just need to know one thing sometimes at the very end. It comes down to it can be just 1 point. That makes all the difference.
One thing. And it's the right question. It has to be the right question. Sometimes we can slay that one because they ask the right 3 questions, right?
Yeah.
But if they don't ask the right 3, then we can stumble through. Mm-hmm. So I went to see Downton Abbey Friday, when was it? Thursday, last Monday. I don't know when I went to see it, but it was so good. It was everything you would want out of Downton Abbey that you could possibly get. And fun fact, Cade, one of the subplots was that a movie company filmed a movie there at Downton Abbey, which is kind of ironic since it's a TV show filmed at Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
And that they had all of the old equipment. The stuff that and it was pristine equipment too. It was beautiful how they had put it all together and how accurate everything was. Mm-hmm. And in the middle of filming, they had to make it a talkie. So they brought in the sound equipment and the sound engineer and how they did all. I mean, I was surprised at how first technical they got with how they turned that into a talkie. And of course, the silent film actress, spoke like a, gutter rat. So Lady Mary had to voice her, to do her voice. And that caused all kinds of issues, but it was you would have loved that part, Cade, I think. That whole subplot was really written for you.
The whole point of that movie was that they're kind of moving into a new era, right? So it's called a new era or something like that. Yeah. And so it's about sort of the transition times. Yeah. That's
the transition of generation, from one generation to the next within the family, as well as, the talkies. And it was just amazing. I thought the whole time they were doing that subplot, all I could think of was, Cade would love this. Even though you wouldn't.
Yeah. No, I haven't got into Downton Abbey. I haven't, watched all that, but but that in particular does sound pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I think one of the things that I appreciate so much with Downton Abbey that you don't see in a lot of shows, I've seen it in The Crown, is the production value. They put a lot of time and effort and money into accuracy and creating the atmosphere of that production. Diane
and I watched another show that we watched together was The Gilded Age, and even though it was the same director, right? We didn't really, the accuracy wasn't there, so that's why it's interesting to hear you talk about it in the movies. So they got it right in the movies, huh? Not the Gilded Age for some reason.
The Gilded Age, I just kind of breaks my heart because that era, that late 1890s New York, is just this amazing time. If you watch like The Alienist or any of the other, TV shows, whatever, series, whatever you want to call it, about that era. And New York is just an amazing place, but they just missed. It's like missing a character.
They got the interiors, like the costumes and the interiors are superb. But then every time they go outside, Diane's like, "There's no concrete curves. There's no. Why are there concrete curves?
Yeah. Why do we have asphalt roads? This isn't right. It's not right. These people should be worried about the mud on their skirts." Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's always sunny. Yeah, there's no dirt, there's no squalor, there's none of that. Which even in the part of New York where the Gilded Age existed, it wasn't pristine like that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I just wanted to share that with you, Cade.
Yeah.
And you, Ava, because I know you're a huge Downton Abbey fan too.
Yeah.
And that's only been 7 years in their span since that Lady Mary's first husband died. In their series, it's only been 7 years, which is so amazing, that they haven't moved that far forward in time, because we certainly have.
Interesting. Yeah, I went to see Top Gun Maverick this week.
Oh, how was that?
Yeah.
I was never a huge fan of the original Top Gun. I think to a lot of, it was, I guess it was important to a lot of people because I've heard a lot of people just rant. Just throughout life.
I love the aerial footage. That was what I liked about it. The love story was just kind of
the aircraft carrier taking on and off. That was cool. And then Kenny Loggins.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, so they have the exact same opening as the original Top Gun. They redo all that with Danger Zone and with the jets taking off, and it's like all that. The same title thing. It was the exact same. They recreated it. And it's universally loved. Was definitely the most packed I've seen a theater. This movie's going to do amazing, and I've heard people where at my job there was people who said they've never been to a movie theater in 7 years are going to see this movie, which is just crazy and then it's being universally praised by people who are huge fans of the original are just openly saying that this was better than the original, which is somewhat heresy. I feel to some people, they're yeah, I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I think it's better. And so I must say I didn't have that cooling of a reaction to it, and then it's probably because I don't think this is made for me. It's not my type of movie, and that's fine. I'm okay. It had really moving parts to it, and it had really interesting parts to it, and it's just it really relies on how much you like certain things and how much you like. The pacing of the original, because I rewatched the original and I'm it was a chore to get through, and even this one is odd, and I can't get. It's another one that's just I can't get into the groove of it, and I found myself are people enjoying this section of it? But it's punctuated by really interesting sequences and really interesting, really cool, riveting stuff and some great character stuff. But I felt neither one of the love stories ever worked in this one or in the last one.
I agree.
I don't think anybody watched it for a love story. I do remember when surround sound came out. Mm-hmm. People were starting to buy surround. That's the very first movie everybody watched.
Makes sense, and they've done the sound with people have said that, and the sound in this new one is pretty amazing. And so but yeah, it's interesting. I'm surprised, really, that a lot of people really enjoyed it in a lot of respects, because, with different franchises, people are very loving of their lore and loving of what they've set up, and this one kind of throws a few things out the window that I'm people are okay with that, but I guess people don't have that sort of attachment to Top Gun, but I don't know. The last Top Gun ends with him becoming an instructor at Top Gun. And, for the past decades, that's where that character's ended, where Maverick's ended his storyline. And they make a reference in this movie that he only did that for 2 weeks, and he left that. and that happens halfway through the movie. And
somehow that doesn't surprise me. They're like threw him out.
Yeah. And it's just kind of a throwaway line that you're like, that is how you ended your movie, but okay, I guess no one else, people just enjoyed, I think, the jets and the stuff. And so
that's why I watched it. That and the volleyball scene, and please tell me I do not have to see Tom Cruise without a shirt. Because if he goes shirtless, I don't want to see it.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Diane. He does go shirtless at his current age. They were not playing volleyball though. They were playing some sort of form of football, but on the beach. So they had to change that where it was like offense and defense playing at this. It was a weird. I don't know. It was like a weird form. I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about it. But it was some sort of complicated form of football.
Tom Cruise must not have any friends, because if he had a real friend, they would tell him.
Yeah,
you're too long in the tooth to go without the shirt now, Tom.
Well, I think I get the feeling, and I could be wrong here, but with this movie and with in the next two parts of Mission, because the next Mission Impossible they have a trailer for and that's out online, but it's like a part one. And so I guess the next two Mission Impossible are going to be a part 1 and 2. I hope this like caps off that era of Tom Cruise. Like, okay, he's now, the action star days are over. He's made a big finish to him. And I hope he moves on to more interesting stuff again. Like, cause like that was a fun era of Tom Cruise when he was more like character. I mean, like I remember, like I didn't really care for Magnolia.
Acting.
Yeah, I didn't care for Magnolia, but like I want to see him making those types of things.
He was great in that though, and then I always thought he should have won for Born on the 4th of July. I forget who won, but he was superb in that. I don't know if he just figured I didn't win, forget it. I'm just going to do adventure stuff from now on.
I'm just in it for the money.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's something with his religion that they're not going to allow him to not be the biggest movie star ever. But I hope that he takes a back seat and starts like doing more supporting stuff and more, because he's a really good actor when he does that sort of thing. And even so, if he's the action star, he doesn't have to be that type of action star anymore.
I just looked and it looks like he's going to do a Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat.
Good.
Which sounds like a sequel, doesn't it, to the one that he did with what's her name?
Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, which that one it's a weird one. It was called Edge of Tomorrow when it was released in theaters, but when they put it out on, because it didn't do good in theaters, despite it being a really good movie, they put it, when they released it onto video or whatever and put it out, home releases and digital, they changed the title to Live, Die, Repeat. So that's why maybe I guess they're going with that, even though most people just refer to it as Edge of Tomorrow. But it does have one of those weird ones that have two titles.
Can we go back to the original Top Gun for just a second? What popped in my head was Meg Ryan. She had such a small part in it, but she was so, effervescent. And so I think it was probably one of her first movies. It reminded me of Brad Pitt and Thelma and Louise, right? He had a relatively small part, but it was like, whoa, this guy's going to be around for, I want to see him again. I think Meg Ryan's short stint in the original was great. I didn't buy Kelly, I forget her last name, the love interest in the original Top Gun.
Yeah.
I just didn't buy them together. So Meg Ryan, though, I was all in.
Yeah.
In her small part.
And that's another one that's like where, that they do a thing in this movie that there was two lines in the movie that it was just like, oh, you're doing that, and no, everyone's just on board with it. Okay. And that's another one. What they do with that character just is a single line. Dialogue. Yeah.
Well, she's too old now. We can't bring her back. Which one, Meg Ryan or Kelly?
Meg Ryan. Meg Ryan. No, there's no reference to Kelly at all in this movie.
Okay. She's gone. All right.
She doesn't even get a single line.
She's aged out actress-wise, right?
Yeah. So. Well, has a relationship with Jennifer Connelly in this movie. Jennifer Connelly comes in, and they have a thing, and we're supposed to just he's supposed to have a history with this character, of which we have not, as an audience, been a part of. And
where's Kelly?
And it at times it feels like there's like a movie or two in between this that we are just getting little things of the little breadcrumbs that I'm like, okay, and everyone's just on board with it. I think everyone's just on board with the plot stuff to get to the big action sequences. And you know what they do character-wise, like the most interesting part about it is, I mean, like when you think of Top Gun, it's the part of it is, I think Goose's death is the sort of the pivotal, the heart of the thing, and that this is still dealing with the ramifications of that, and that's really what the movie at its heart is about, and what they do with that theme and that sort of how it connects these characters and how it is still is with Maverick, and then Goose's son is in this movie.
I was just going to ask. I was going to say, I bet you the son's in it.
yeah, and he's Miles Teller.
The son's there. Well, that's good.
And so, in the way that works is, I mean, that's the heart of the film, and it's like we don't even need the whole Jennifer Connelly bit, which I love Jennifer Connelly, but it's just like. It was just a thing that just was kind of unrelated that we're supposed to just jump on with, and that didn't work for me again. So I don't even know why.
Sometimes I think Tom Cruise has female co-leads in movies just because he can't really date. So this is like his way to date.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think both this and the original Top Gun, he has to be like, well, no, I have a girlfriend, so this isn't a gay thing.
Exactly.
So
it's okay that I'm shirtless playing volleyball with these other guys.
Yeah. You see, because we have the obligatory love story that's in this that makes it okay. I agree, and I think even this one that they're like, we have to have it because it was for some reason a big part of the last movie that it's I guess people are going to come for this. I don't know. So I feel like we talked about Top Gun more than we're going to talk about our movies.
The only question I have is, should you see it? If you're going to see it, should you see it in the movie the theater?
Yeah, you need to see it in theaters.
IMAX or.
It might be really good in an IMAX. I didn't see it in IMAX, but there's shots in it that's pretty spectacular that I'm sure that it would even look even better in an IMAX. And it's really a theater experience. I imagine if it's one of those movies that if you saw later, you're like, oh, maybe this isn't that good, and it probably isn't that good if you watched it on like a TV at home. And but for what it does, and it's real heightened emotions and really heightened, feeling. It's a good movie. It's a really good movie. It's a Tom Cruise action movie with some heart to it, and I if that's what you want, and if you liked the original Top Gun, I guess you're gonna love this thing. But I wasn't over the moon that like some people were about this.
How was Val Kilmer? Did he run around with that shirt too?
No, he was in one scene. And he has that condition where did he get cancer? What, he had some lung or some throat thing, and so he can't speak. I don't know if you know that about Val Kilmer now.
No,
and so supposedly there's a good documentary on Amazon about his life, and it kind of goes into that a little bit more. But yeah, he can't. He that's why you haven't really seen him much in things, is because he really struggles to speak, and so they kind of have a reason around that. He has some sort of condition that's just, they say he has, and so they kind of minimize. They have him essentially typing out words. And then he does have a few lines, but yeah, it's sad to see Val Kilmer that way, but he still is. I mean, one of the great actors. I really always loved Val Kilmer, and he still had a real big presence, and it was felt in this film, and even in that scene.
He's the reason to watch Tombstone.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
My personal opinion. He's the reason.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, we're gonna jump on in. I think we've delayed the inevitable here with as much as we can with our top discussion. We'll get in. We're talking about the movie Boy from 2010, directed by Taika Waititi, also written by him. And then later on, we'll be talking about what's the other one? Ruby Sparks from 2012. But first we are doing Boy 2010, and Diane, you'll be telling the plot of that after this little interlude.
Hi. So let's talk about the movie Boy. Kate's already talked about who wrote it, so I'm not even going to try to say his name again. I don't know why I can't get his name right.
Taika Waititi.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this movie is set in 1984 on the, East Coast of New Zealand. The lead actor is an 11-year-old child that's called a boy. He is also the narrator of the movie. Now, the movie is about Boy and his absentee criminal father. His dad was in prison for 6 years, and he finally gets out, and he comes back to find some money that he had buried years ago. And so the entire story revolves around Boy actually meeting his father 6 years after he left, and learning all about his father. And the thing that I love the most about this movie is Boy has the best imagination of any 11-year-old boy I've ever met or even talked to. He has created this image of his father as being, swashbuckler, the scuba diver, saved his mother from drowning, all kinds of things like that are none of true, but that's in his imagination. He's also a huge Michael Jackson fan, and evidently his dad is too. And one of the things that Boy thinks is when his dad comes back is that his dad's going to take him to see Michael Jackson live, as he says. The entire movie really has a cast of kids. And in the case of Boy's life, he lives with his younger brother named Rocky, who doesn't even remember his father. His father was sent to prison right after Rocky was born, and Rocky and Boy's mother passed away during childbirth, giving birth to Rocky, I should say. Anyway, they live with their grandma and 4 or 5 other little cousins. Boy is the oldest, and the movie starts off with Grandma going to a funeral and leaving Boy in charge. And that's when the fun ensues.
Great. Perfect. Did a great job there, Diane.
I know, that was a tough one because there's a lot to this movie and it's little bitty pieces to it. But I just love these characters. I love that Dallas is in it. And I mean, all these characters that they have, they're this group of friends, and the way they talk to each other, they're just so irreverent with each other. I never heard little kids cuss like this. At the same time, once you start meeting all their parents, you can kind of see why.
Yeah. And
the kids are the good guys in this movie. That's the thing.
Yeah. So did you, first off, we'll start with Ava. Did you enjoy this movie?
I did really like it. I didn't like it as much as Wilder People.
I agree.
But I liked it. I think only because it was sadder, it was a little heavier toned, I think, than Wilder People. And, just those basically orphaned children, trying to make it on their own, and the father being a man-child essentially, and of course the dead mother. But I did enjoy it, I guess. It's maybe a hard word. I'm glad I watched it. I'm very glad I saw it. And I love the Rocky character. I thought was, even more interesting in a way than the Boy character. He almost seemed more mature than the father and the main character. So yes, I did enjoy it. Except Can I do my except right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't kill the goat.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, you knew when he hit the when Boy hit the money, the goat was going to eat it.
Yeah,
but don't kill him.
I knew the goat was going to get it. I knew he was. I just saw it coming a mile away. But and I thought it served a bigger purpose in this movie than when he killed the dog. When the dog got killed and killed their people. But still, it's like, it's just, it's so overdone. Literally, it's been done to death.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a weird.
Pets alone.
He's got a weird thing about that. Because
these animals?
If you've seen Jojo Rabbit, there's a thing about killing a thing. So he has a weird. I never thought that was a reoccurring thing, but I don't know if
in every coming of age movie. I mean, there's something similar. That's why, but it's like it is an all coming of age movie. So why put it? Do something different. And I'm not a big fan of you have to suffer and loss and all that to grow up and all that. So just full disclosure, that's what bothers me about it too. It's one thing that it's an animal, and then it's like you don't need that. Okay. Yeah. You can grow up without losing your beloved pet. I'm sorry. Yeah. You can evolve.
So what did you think about it? Like it? Okay, what did you think about it, Diane?
I kind of like Ava. This is that I hate seeing the pet always getting killed. I mean, this was the second movie I watched of his that the pet gets killed. So it's kind of like, oh my gosh, why are we doing this? But I think more importantly, I loved Rocky, that character. He'd been told since birth that he had the power to kill his mother. So he's trying the entire movie to use his powers for something. And then I think he finally realizes he doesn't have any unique and unusual powers at all. But so I love that character. And then Boy himself kind of reminds me a little bit of the boy in Hunt for the Wildebeest in a little bit. But again, coming of age kind of movie, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I
but
think
all
that
of
they
the
all
adults
have.
In this movie were not redeemable.
Yeah.
There wasn't a single redeemable adult.
Well, I'll tell you who I liked, and it's still the same actress that was in Hunt for the Wilder People. I love his aunt, who's barely in this movie, has 2 scenes. Yeah. And so I looked into this a bit. Apparently, this movie was originally called Volcano, was how it was whenever it was made, and when it was written, and whenever it was shot and everything with that whole thing. But they end up cutting the sort of scenes that was I guess there was supposed to be some sort of symbolic volcano or something that had to do with this character and whether this character was going to erupt or some sort of theme that was all those scenes end up getting cut, which makes me think that if you watch this movie, I think things had to have been cut and things had to have been shaped in editing and picked and choose, because there are just certain things like his aunt that's completely makes no sense for even why she's a character in this movie. And it's she has to the point that she comes in just that once. She's set up in the intro in a really funny thing where she does she does the postal work, and she also does, I guess she's a school bus driver because she switches the little sign there. Real funny thing. I'm like, great, we're gonna have this character in it throughout, and then she only appears in one scene, right? There was only the one scene that she appears, and she just walks in.
And that's it.
And she just walks in and then she just leaves out of the movie, and it's like, well, where was she at while all these kids were around just hanging out with the grandmother gone? Yeah, it was that was one of those weird things that stuck out to me, that I think that it had to find itself in the editing a bit. I must say, I hate being this way. I did not really enjoy this movie too much. I really wanted to enjoy it. I like Taika a lot. And I like his point of view, and his you can tell immediately that a line is written by Taika, of just his style, of the way that the punchline lands and the way that the humor is. Even when he does these Marvel things, that it's very clear that a Taika line, and it's a unique comedic voice that is really great. But I found this movie to be, I think it made the cardinal sin of movies, and that is, I found it to be boring. It was, to me, an incredibly dull and boring movie it took me, and I hate doing this because it just makes it worse, but I've paused it several times, took breaks, because I just couldn't. And I wasn't in, I guess, maybe the right state of mind for this movie, but I end up really, really strongly disliking it. But yeah, and I don't.
I didn't have that. I love some of the lines in it though. They're great lines. Real milk. Look, it's real milk. Yeah.
And then when he gives them the sugar and the milk, the kids, I think I found it, Cade, I didn't find it boring, but I know what you're saying. It's like, that's why I was stumbling over saying enjoying it. It's a hard movie to enjoy. But I did like the aspect of like the fallen idol aspect of it, right? He idolized his father, he idolized Michael Jackson, and you know, they all fall away, right? And then not even the aunt or the grandmother is around enough to idolize or follow. So the boys are trying to find their place and their potential without it. I did find that interesting, but it's hard to say enjoyed it because it was such a struggle for them and they were in such poor circumstances. And you know, and culturally I found it interesting, you know, when an oppressed culture, I love that director, just the fact that he got movies made, right, being from that culture and being such an oppressed culture. But I can't say I thought it was boring, but I understand what you mean about not quite loving it. Like
it goes a long way.
People was so great, you know, had a lightheartedness to the tragedy, and the kid was funny because he was like lazy, right? Yeah. This kid is like driven. That kid was kind of lazy, which was kind of a funny part of it, etc. But
it's if you like it's a slow, like wistful movie. So if you like that sort of vibe of just like, you know, long takes and then punctuated by these sort of it just seemed to have a very sort of slow pacing and very, very, very kind of stargazy kind of feel to it at times that I just found that to be very just like, okay. And it's like, you know, where this is going, like 10 miles away, like, you know, and it doesn't seem to like set up like, okay, I want to see his Nan a little bit more, understand that character a little bit more before she's just gone out of the picture. Like, we are just thrown into this without any of the sort of setup necessary, and then it's just given this whole movie with his father, and I didn't find that to be particularly the most interesting relationship of the thing. I kind of wanted to know the other parts of it and everything. I don't know.
I think the movie though was about
too, right? You knew the goat was going to eat the money.
I knew that immediately.
I did, right off the bat.
Me too. The thing is, it's sometimes hard to watch a movie that's written, directed, created, released with actors from a different country and be able to watch it with our Americanized view of the world.
See, that stuff, I didn't think they went far enough with that stuff. That was where I'm like, go into that. The little bits of their culture and stuff was very interesting, and yet we just sort of just sat around and like See,
that's not what I meant, Cade. What I meant was, in the United States, you would never leave an 11-year-old in charge of little kids. Not in our communities, anyway, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's not necessarily true there. Nana may not have this big role in their lives that we needed to see as Americans, right? Because
I think it was set up that she had a big role in their life, and like even whenever she returns,
What I meant was, from a film perspective, it may not be a requirement, you know, in their country. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm going to list out this for you. Okay. From the New Zealand Film and TV Awards, it won Best Feature Film, Best Director, Best Supporting Actor, Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Editing, Best Score, Best Lead Actor, Best Supporting Actor. I mean, so from our
it was like the highest grossing movie that was from their that was made by the New Zealand Film Commission or whatever, it was a huge hit with that group of people.
Yeah. So I think from our Americanized world, it wasn't as good a movie as we thought they could have made, but it was certainly, from their perspective, it met all the expectations from their country. See what I mean? So
I think there's something
love the
to
fact that this has got a Lost Boys kind of feel to it. It's like the Boxcar Children. I don't know if you ever read those books when you were a kid,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what it reminded me of. It was like, okay, here are these kids raising themselves. You've got Dallas who, goes out and picks all of the pot for her dad, who is like worthless, as we find out at the end of the movie. But all these kids are like raising themselves. You see what I mean? They're taking care of themselves and they're raising each other. And it's got this whole like Lost Boys, Boxcar Kids kind of feel to the whole movie. And the people, the parents, except for the one aunt that we didn't really get to know too much other than she worked several jobs. I'm sorry, I've got a cramp in my leg. They're all like kids themselves. None of them have any responsibility. None of the adults do. The kids have more than the adults. Unless you count selling drugs. One of the
funny lines was when she tells the kid to get a job and he says, "I can't, you've got them all."
That's exactly, I love that. Yeah. But you're right, Cade, that's the kind of line you expect from him, that he writes those wonderful lines like that.
Yeah, and I think some of it is that that accent is so made for punchlines. Like it has a cadence that kind of goes up at the end, like it just sort of delivers every sort of, even like just normal lines. Mm-hmm. It's like it's a punchline, and it kind of has like a rhythm to it that it kind of, everything's kind of has a humorous tone to it. Even it's, I don't know. I think that there's something to that, and I think that just and you get a feel for that. Like it's a really interesting, and I mean. To hear that, I love that he does that accent in like things now. Like it's just great to like with in Marvel where he does that sort of thing. It's great to have that sort of representation of that even in the world, because it's a really beautiful accent, but it's really fun too.
I love that all of the kids. I mean, even the kids, they were able to do that as well. It's just that I love that part of it. But yeah, did I think it was slow? Yes. Did I think here's another coming of age maybe that the pet gets killed? Oh, yuck. Not again.
It's so interesting because usually slow movies I don't like it. I didn't find it slow. That's odd to me.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to me. I think the kid's facial expressions, like I was thinking of when the father cuts his hair, right? And you can just tell the kid is just seething. And it's like, I don't know, maybe that's why I didn't think it was slow. Maybe I was reading facial expressions more. So it's just very interesting. I'll have to.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't in the right mindset for it or something. I don't know. Cause it was, I don't know. And I wanted to like it. I did, and I've had that experience a few different times with like, I didn't get, I love What We Do in the Shadows as just the comedy of it, of his stuff, and the movie, and this. He's a brilliant comedic performer, but then at times, it's like whenever he's unconstrained, I feel like at times I don't enjoy it as much as other people seem to enjoy it. Like a Thor Ragnarok, it was like, yeah. It's funny, but it's like, I don't know, and it's been I just the way that he goes about some things is just like that's not how I would have done it. I respect that he does it a different way, but it's just kind of it's not, I guess, like one of those things. It's not my cup of tea. I just and like in this case, I found it to be very just it wasn't the movie. I assumed it was going to be a little. It was more serious. It was more of a drama than sort of his other things were. I realized that, and the drama aspects of like a Jojo Rabbit, he nailed that sort of the balance of a comedy and a drama, and real deep drama and real deep loss and real and growing up and all that. I think a little bit better in that. And of course, that's what he won the Academy Award for. But this one, I just felt it to be meandering and unfocused. I think, at its worst. And that was, and so I didn't find it all that interesting, but I there were aspects of it.
That.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, and if you guys enjoyed it, I just go ahead and speak about it. Yeah, I
certainly
sad.
enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than last week's horror movie.
Yeah, don't take it over any horror movie.
Yeah, and that's where I think we would disagree quite a bit on, Diane, because I was like, I watched this movie and I'm like, I don't know how anyone would enjoy this more than Suspiria. I can't imagine a world in which that's the case. But I guess there are people that do, and that's
There's
what's great.
More people, that would enjoy it more than.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to me, it felt like 10 times longer than Suspiria. And I
didn't think Suspiria was ever going to end.
And I know Suspiria was much longer than this movie, but
I know.
But I felt like this movie lasted 27 years, and I don't know. I couldn't. There's a few things. Why the 80s? And that's from me. That's a ridiculous statement to be made because you know how much I love the 80s. But why the 80s for this? I
think it's probably because however you say his name. I think he just wanted to be able to dress up like Michael Jackson and do Thriller.
Okay.
I mean, at the end, did you stay for the end?
Yes, I did stay for the end. Okay. And if there was more of that stuff in the movie,
they were having fun.
Yeah.
With it.
And they were doing like they were doing some traditional dance in that. Like if you know Maori culture, they're blending Thriller with that. And it's like, why don't we get some more of that culture stuff in this? And that's his to tell and all that stuff. So I can't really say to pick and choose would be like this needs more. But I don't know. That was the more interesting aspects.
But maybe that was part of the point too, is that their circumstances, that was all there was. You know, there was the remarks about his potential, right? And he's like, I don't have potential. It's like there's nowhere to go here, you know. So the traditional stuff maybe is what you're speaking to, Cade, the dancing, the traditional, throwing that in there, I could see. But maybe that was part of his point was, you know, that's gone and this is what's left, and there's not even parents to look up to. And you know, I know that's why I didn't enjoy it as much as Wilder people, just because it was so much heavier. I just wondered if any of it was autobiographical for him.
Yes.
But it doesn't sound like the timing was right. Yeah. And I think you were alluding to that. It's like such a personal story, if it is, right? It felt like such a personal story. And, you know, was it one of his earlier films?
Yes, this is his second feature film. And so he had one before this. And the way that I understood it and read into that was like this was a script that went through like the Sundance Labs, and this had been something this was his first screenplay, and that and it went through several people, and it went through the Sundance Labs where it gets workshopped by a few different people that were there, and it gets worked through, and then he worked on it for several years, and then in the meantime he went and made this other feature film as his first feature film, but then he came back to this and shot it all, and then like in the editing, I think things got pulled out and put back in and sort of made into this thing. And then that's what. So it was seemingly his first, I think, writing of a feature that eventually got produced. Who knows if he wrote things that didn't, of course, was produced. But and so, yeah, I think that you can sort of see the basis of different things in this. And I'll tell you, it makes me a little bit more confident at filmmaking, if that's sort of the baseline where he goes to where he is now, and he's successful and doing really amazing stuff. Like, he's just extremely talented. And if this is the sort of base level that's being judged upon with someone who can have that sort of talent at the end of the day and accolades and everything, then that makes me a little bit more confident, because it was I think missing some stuff, I think is fair to say, maybe.
Yeah, I kind of love that they used the 80s, because I can remember back when Michael Jackson first did the moon rock, how many kids did you see trying to do it? when they have that scene where the kid is trying to, that's when I thought to myself, I wonder if this is autobiographical because he's writing about his own experience of the kid that tried to do the moonwalk and couldn't because every kid was trying back then. Weren't they, Ava? You remember those days, don't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, so, yeah. So are we ready to give us some ratings?
Sure, we can go into our ratings. I must say, I think that the movie, I think the best scene of the movie was Taika and his their fight at the end, which was an hour and 16 minutes. I wrote down, I'm like, okay, now this is interesting, and it finally kind of got to the point of what it's saying about like potential, and they have that little fight thing and all that. Like, I think all the themes sort of come into place at that point, and. Yeah, and the fact that it's kind of revealed that he wasn't there, like even like he was making that part up about his father, like you knew the big stuff, of course, but then the sort of slow reveal that he wasn't even in these memories that he had of him and these sort of things. That was I thought a really powerful.
Yeah, I think that if this had gone over the course of time, and Boy had been 16 when they had the fight, it would have been a lot more realistic. Because that's when 16-year-old boys always go after their dads, right? And that's But they're limited by the,
Yeah, it seemed odd to be like, so this takes place over what, 2 weeks or something? Because I don't
even think that long. Because
and yet he comes in and out like several times in a sense of like. It makes it seem like he's gone for extended periods of time, and he's only gone for seemingly a few days or hours. Yeah, like it like and so it was. That was I would have appreciated more of like if it was just like a bigger scope than I could have. But I understand there's limitations to that too. But like that would have been a little bit more interesting. That like of all the times that the father came back into his life. And it was just like over a year, I would have been like, okay. And then you would have like seen this child grow. And it's just these times in which he like needs money and he's going out and digging in this hole again. Like, and he just comes around for that. And like, that would have been, and it only changes it, I feel like slightly, but it would make it a lot harder to film and shoot and everything.
Yeah, it wouldn't have got shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get why they didn't do it. Okay. So, Ava, we did not go over what our rating. You can rate it whatever you want. We have no rules here, as you know. So, I guess we'll start with you. What do you want to rate this movie?
Well, pick an animal for me, Cade. I would give it 2.5 stars, and I would have given it 3, but I'm docking 1/4 of a star for killing the goat, and retroactively docking 1/4 of a star for killing the dog in the other movie.
Okay. That makes that's logical right there, Ava.
So you gave what's the total after all that math? It was
2.5.
2.5. Okay.
I can't do half. So.
I can't do half. Yeah. I'll just say we'll just do stars here. I don't have any. Can't do a half animal here. Yeah. Diane, what are you gonna give this?
I'm gonna give this 3 glasses of milk.
Oh, milk. Yeah. That's a good one.
I would probably be more 2.5, but I know you can't do a half a glass of milk, so just give me 3 glasses of milk.
So yeah, you enjoyed it. You guys enjoyed it. So yeah, that's good. You would recommend people watch this, right? Would you recommend people watch it?
I would. I probably would recommend them watching the other one for if you go to watch either one of them, watch the other one.
I'd recommend it for people who like the genre, the coming of age, and he's not tech. Well, I guess it is a foreign film, right? It's English. If people are interested in other cultures, etc., I would recommend it. It's not a waste of time by any means.
Yeah, there
somebody tell me that they love the Boxcar Children's series. I tell them to watch this. This is an updated version with cuss words.
I love when they're in the classroom and like they're bickering with it, and then you just assume the teacher was gonna, like in most American things, the teacher would get on to them for cussing, but he just joins in with them, and that was a funny little part. It has moments, and he obviously has brilliant comedic timing, and I think like in future things you sort of get a deeper sort of understanding of drama and what makes it interesting, and I think he's developed that part of his writing exceptionally well. I do think that there's a start of things in this movie that's to come, where I think that he's much better than some other writers, directors, and stuff. They'll come out with something that's a huge, big thing and like fizzle out, like that's their one idea, and they don't really ever get better than that and don't really evolve. Sometimes they'll get worse and worse each opportunity that they get. He's someone I think that I think he's gotten better with time. And I think, and I would love to see him sort of return to his roots with what he's doing, but with this excellent, with the money that he gets now, with everything. And he has that power, and you can see that even with just the stuff he produces now. He produces Reservation Dogs, and he's able to do these TV shows and movies that are just spectacular, and I love that. But at the same time, I feel horrible about giving this, but it is my true feelings. I give it a yawn. I'm sorry, I did not enjoy the movie. I wish I would have flipped it and it said all the nice things after the emoji, so I would have softened the blow. But remember all the nice things that I said now at this point. Now that the emoji's been removed, I think he's a great things. But I found it a little boring, but
the one thing that I do want to say at the end of this, as we lead into the next one, is both of these movies this week to me just underscore how important production is. Whoa, did you hear that? Anyway, the production of this movie, the location, the indoor scenes, the outdoor scenes. Everything it became part of another character in the movie. And the next movie is the same way. It's when you sit back and you look at this movie, the house that they live in, the garage that the dad turns into his throne room. I mean, everything about it adds to that movie so much. And even at the points where maybe you're yawning, if you look around and go, they live in this environment. And this is part of what makes them who they are, because of the environment that they're in. So I have to give some credit to the people who put the production together.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like I read that this was particularly hard to shoot because I guess in the summer in that area, it's a very big like fishing and destination place. And so they had to like shoot around that. I guess they had a lot of tourists there, and you don't get that. It seems very wide open and expansive and empty, but apparently a lot of tourists come. Yeah, a lot of tourists come at that.
There we go, Ava. That could be our next tour. Go to New Zealand.
Yeah. Supposedly New Zealand's great. Okay. So we'll move on to our next one, which is Ruby Sparks from 2012. Ava will give the plot synopsis of the movie. After our short intermission, be sure to grab something from the concession stand. Help support us. Keeps the lights on.
You couldn't hear the last thing. Your audio's going out for me. I'm sorry.
Sorry. No, I was just saying you're gonna do the plot here, right? And everything. Right. And I was saying about the concession stand. Be sure to get something from the concession stand because it's our intermission time. 30 seconds to grab something, and then
give us a rating.
And then be sure to give us a rating on our podcasting platforms if you enjoy this. Our short intermission, and then we'll talk about Ruby Sparks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's intermission time. All these delicious treats are waiting for you at the refreshment stand. Delicious fresh popcorn, ice-cold cola, and candy you know and love. They're all ready for you now, so you won't have to miss any of the feature. Come and get them.
And now, on with the show.
Perfect.
Okay. Feature 2 is Ruby Sparks. And by the way, I even love the poster that is on the screen as well. I thought that was very clever. And so Ruby Sparks is about a novelist who has writer's block until he writes his dream girl. And then suddenly, magically, somehow she comes to life. And then the rest of the movie is really a very deep exploration of relationships and love and how we love and how we fall in love and who we fall in love with. And I thought it was very well written, and I really did enjoy the movie. So that is the short summary of the plot.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. What did you think about the movie, Diane? Sorry to interrupt.
I'm almost afraid to say.
Oh.
No, I didn't get bored. No, I never put it on pause. I watched it straight through.
I feel bad.
I laughed with it and cried with it a little bit. I thought it was an amazing, you could take and flip it and make it from a woman's point of view, right? And it would still be the same exploration of control, egomania, and fragility, and all those things that people have about themselves that keep them from falling in love and from being in relationships. So that part I loved about it, because it could go either way. Now, the part that really was, Elliot Gould was in it, Annette Bening, Antonio Banderas.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was in it. I mean, they really had all these wonderful actors in it that you were like, how great would it be that Annette Bening's your mom?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of deal. And again, let's give some production value. Do you notice how every set piece was became part of the character of this movie? The sterile environment that he lived in, and the house, everything about his life was so sterile and lacking personality. Right?
I definitely wrote down that
mom's house, and it's like, wow, overwhelming with personality. And of course, you get to meet Mort, who is overwhelming with personality. So yeah, that's I love the production of this.
Yeah,
I love that he writes his own wife. I mean, let's face it, Paul Dano, Zoe Kazan, is that how you say her last name?
Mm-hmm. We didn't ever look that up. I think Kazan, yeah.
Kazan, yeah. She wrote this.
She wrote this, yeah.
Yes.
And it's you don't. A lot of times when you see a husband and wife on screen together, there is no chemistry between them. In this movie, these two have massive chemistry. I mean, it was like they belong together. I'm going to be very sad when I read that they get divorced someday.
Well, actually, I don't think they're married, but they've been partners for a long time. They have a daughter together. But
okay, I didn't
know either.
Yeah, no. Well, I really liked this movie. It was right up my alley. But what's very interesting, what was interesting to me, was that this movie is right up my alley, and I didn't watch it. I've heard of it, and I'm guessing, I don't remember, but I'm guessing that I read the blurb, right, the description, and thought, oh, this is another male fantasy, supermodel kind of thing, and totally dismissed it. And so and so then when I started watching it, I was just so pleasantly surprised. It's like he writes somebody who's, he's sensitive, and he writes somebody who wants to listen to him and get to know him and talk to, and I'm like, whoa. And then when we got to I didn't know she wrote it until the credits, and I'm like, okay, it's making a little more sense now.
Yeah.
Not that a man couldn't have written it, because I think this, to Diane's point, I think this would appeal to intelligent, sensitive men as much as it would appeal to intelligent, sensitive women. But
there you go, Cade.
I'm sorry?
I said, there you go, Cade. Yeah. There's your big chance.
But she, and I think part of when I think it's a good movie is when I want to read how it was written, like, Cade does all the time, right? It's like, how did she wrote it? What was it, her inspiration, blah, blah, blah. So I did watch a lot of interviews, and it was interesting because she wrote it. And then when he read it, he said, "You wrote this for us." And she goes, "Well, no, I didn't, but I think I did." And then they collaborated on it. And then the directors that they got did Little Miss Sunshine. And those directors they're married. And she said that she had never seen a working relationship or a relationship like that in her life. She said it was so synchronistic. It was just mind blowing. And so it's just so very interesting that here you had two sets of partners working so collaboratively. So yeah, I obviously really like this movie. And sorry if I cut Diane off. Sorry, go ahead. I was very enthusiastic about it though.
I was too. Most romantic comedies, have this formula to them, and this one kind of goes a little bit against the formula. And I kind of like how at the ending they leave it ambiguous. I don't want to give away any spoilers or anything, because the assumption is always that, okay, boy meets girl, they fall in love. There's a big event. In fact, I even wrote in here, I think in my notes, I said, I so dread the beginning of the third act. Because that's usually when you have they break up. And then they get back together.
I didn't think it was I wouldn't have even put it in the rom-com category, to be honest. And there was a very, definite shift, which is what happens in relationships, right? After the honeymoon period, there's a shift in the relationship. There's definitely a shift in this movie. In fact, when I was Googling it, a lot of people said, is Ruby Sparks a horror movie? And it's like, you could almost see, I wouldn't categorize it as that either. But another interesting thing about it in the interview, she was walking past a dumpster, saw a mannequin, which reminded her of the Greek Pygmalion myth.
Pygmalion,
about a man.
This is very Pygmalion.
A sculptor, and then falling in love with what he created, kind of thing, and that's what she kind of based it on. I thought that was very interesting too. And she said, also, I'm sorry, I'll get back to the movie, but she said it just made her start thinking and writing about relationships. And she said in her past, her relationships, and I could so relate to this, that the person that was in love with her was really in love with someone 3 shades off from her, which I thought was a beautiful way to put it. She's an excellent writer. And it's like, I know that it's like, you're the other person, right, in the relationship. You're having a great time in this relationship, but I don't feel like it's about me somehow.
You're more in love with the idea of me than the me.
Exactly. The idea or the image that you've created. And we all do that, right? It's not a male thing. It's not a female thing. We all do that. We fall in love with something familiar, right, about the person, either good or bad. It's not always good that you fall in love with. It's just familiar. So you feel safe in it somehow, even if it's not particularly positive. So anyway, I go ahead. I was done with that point. Sorry.
Well, and ultimately, he was horrified by what he created.
Well, he couldn't control it. He couldn't control it anymore. It's like when he wrote about her, he could control it. When he didn't write about her, he couldn't control it. He wanted to, let her be who she was, but it was too risky, was my take from it. That it was just too risky for him to let her be who she was as a whole person. And so then, I won't go on because I might spoil it, but yeah.
So can we go to spoiler alert now, Cade? We're not letting you talk very much.
I was going to quickly say, I was from the beginning. I'm like, I hope this movie does a shift. I think to further explore what it's talking about and what it's saying. I hope that it doesn't just keep on the rails of being this, romantic comedy, which I think that it was pretty clear that they wouldn't even call it a romantic film, I guess. It wasn't too much, I wouldn't say comedy in the movie, but it was lighthearted. Maybe that would be the way I would say it. But it, and so I was ready for that shift to occur. And I guess we can go into that if you want to. You know what I mean? Throw up a spoiler thing, Diane, is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, as long as we tell people that we're about to spoil it.
Okay, there's our spoiler alert banner. We
didn't
barely
the last time.
No, sometimes it's like I think it's fair to say without going into let me take that off real quick. Without going into spoiler, I think it is. I enjoyed the film. I thought it was, and I would recommend it. Before we get into that, get into the spoilers. I mean, wouldn't you guys recommend it? I don't know what. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So, just wanted to say that before we threw up the spoiler. If that is that. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, we can talk spoilers now a little bit more openly. So what do you want to talk about that, Diane? What do you want to mention about the spoilers?
Well, I loved how they left the ending as ambiguous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really don't know. When he came across her in the park, is this the real person or is this back to his imagination again? Mm-hmm. You really don't know which way he's going to go with that. You can make that be whatever you want it to be. So at first I wanted it to be, I want this to be the real girl. And then it was like, no, I don't. I want it to be his fantasy again.
But look, do you view him?
Cade.
Okay. So I guess I would love to hear your guys' opinion on this. But I was ready for it to shift, and it does do the shift. He's the villain of the story, right? But then but then it doesn't go. And then
the doctor.
Yes, but then he doesn't I don't feel like it goes 100% on that either. They even kind of shift backwards a little bit, and because he's still the protagonist of the story. And I felt like to me it made sense that he was. I don't know. I wish they would have went a little bit, explored that a little bit more, and went a little further with it. Because even when they go there with it, when they have that scene where he's typing this stuff out and everything, and forcing her to do these things, they immediately he immediately, I guess, realizes it's wrong. And I think we need a section there that kind of that. I was waiting for that shift to happen in the movie, and then when it does, it's immediately undercut, and then it just moves past that.
Well, then you would have to.
I think it was what I took that to be was he couldn't control love. He couldn't control the relationship like he had been, and then he took. Yeah, you just can't control love. And then I was on the fence. I sort of felt like he's letting her go because he loves her, but then again, like I said before, he's also letting her go because it's too big a risk to stay in the relationship the way it was, because it wasn't serving his purposes anymore. I wanted to say I think the ending was my least favorite part of it, and I know, Cade, you like when it's left open. Mm-hmm. I don't. I want the filmmaker to tell me their opinion of what they want the end to be, and I don't judge them on that. That's why they made the movie, right? So the ending I didn't like because I wanted to see more evolution, that he had learned from it, right? Yeah. And that he was now stronger and he could be in a stronger relationship. And I didn't necessarily get that from that ending. You know, so and I don't like that. I don't like when that's just a personal preference. I don't like when
there should have been a learning section, a section in which he kind of learned from that mistake, because he immediately did the heightened version of at the absolute worst at the movie that he gets, and then seconds later he just I'm better now. I'm gonna fix this and set her free, and then the movie, I don't know, what did he learn from that? I mean, he wrote a book about it and was, I guess, successful off of the story. But I didn't quite get.
It was either lather, rinse, repeat, or you can imagine, or she in the script was trying to let the audience decide if he was gonna, there was a little hope there, I think, but she didn't write enough in it for you to figure that out, whether he had learned or not. So, and I wanted him to have learned.
That's, to me, the most interesting part that I wish would have slid to be into the middle and then explored that sort of ending and that sort of. I think that could have happened a little.
I think he would have put it on pause and went and got something to drink. I mean, let's face it. Yeah, when he's sitting there at the typewriter and he's making her do these things and he's getting worse and worse, he is horrified by what he's doing. And if
he's horrified in the moment, or not in the moment.
He is horrified by what he's doing. That's when he stops.
I agree.
After at the end,
he has become while he's sitting there at the typewriter and he's saying, "Oh my God, this is what I've become," and that's when he sets her free. Now, granted, maybe it takes years to get to that point, but I think he got it right then. That this is a horrible thing that I've done.
Did he carry
he puts it away?
But it was always horrible. Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, he never realized how horrible it was, I guess, until rock bottom. Like, I guess that's what you're saying, is it was a rock bottom situation.
Yes. So if you wanted him to spend another 40 minutes learning from how horrible he was, I think he learned how horrible he was. I think that was the end of it. That was oh my God, I've learned now. Oh, wow.
I was expecting a shift in which he was like no longer the protagonist. That was where I was wanting the sort of movie to be. It was, and that's me wanting the movie to be something that it wasn't. I understand that. So,
what other protagonist would you want to be?
Her to be the protagonist. Yeah. Like in Explorer, like I wanted a shift where she was
the typewriter, and the entire movie shifts its focus from him, who you have just spent an hour and 15 minutes with as a protagonist. You want it to shift to an imaginary character that doesn't exist to be what?
Well, she does. I mean, like exploring that sort of a little, like where that sort of line, because like that was the more interesting thing is like what's going on inside of her head. Of like, I get his thing, and we understand it by that point. By the point of when he's talking to his ex, we understand that character and where his depths are and where his motivations are and everything. And so there's no more to explore with him outside of him shifting his perspective, and that happens immediately. Anyways, from when he hits rock bottom. And,
but for how long? That's my question.
Yes.
Like, for how long was
long
there
enough to write a book? Yeah. So,
to write the book, but then to meet her again in the park, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's my question. What would your take on that? To me, it could have gone either way. Either he's starting it all up all over again the same way, or he's or
I feel like that character's a lost cause.
It to be better somehow, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Or she's real.
Well, then why would she act like she didn't? Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, that's where they leave that kind of ambiguous.
Yes, that's her.
And I think you're right, Cade, that when he was talking to his ex, she was pointing out to him all these things that he has learned about himself. And if you'll notice, the next sequence of scenes is him at the typewriter making Ruby do all these different things. And him going, I am a horrible human being. Look what I have done. So I don't know. I guess it could have been another hour longer for him to sit on the couch and go, I am horrible, aren't I? What do I need to do to not be so horrible? But then... What movie were we watching?
No, I think you could have tightened up something. I agree. Like, yes, it worked. I don't dislike the movie. I'm gonna be clear. That's not. I'm not saying that I dislike that. I just feel like that. I'll tell you one in which, and maybe a slight spoiler. We'll be in spoilers for a movie that everyone's seen, so it wasn't on the docket. But Colossal. If you guys have ever seen Colossal, it's a great, I think it's A24, I don't know, but it's Anne Hathaway, and it's the one where she...
A24 just buys a bunch of films and distributes them.
Yes.
They don't produce them.
Well, they pick the movies that they want, but yeah, yeah, I don't, but yeah, they do. There is a style of movies that they buy, and it is it has branding, and people when you say it's an A24 movie, they're like, I got it. They have a vision of what an A24 movie is, and this is in that realm of things. Anne Hathaway has this. She realizes she has this. It's a sci-fi sort of movie, kind of, where she has this connection with this kaiju monster in South Korea, but she's and she has this connection where she like it kind of mimics her when she goes into these sort of different states. Like point is that's the premise of the movie, but at the same time there is this a love story that she's having with Jason Sudeikis in this character, and it plays out like a typical rom-com and whatever that. And spoiler alert, it ends up twisting, and he ends up sort of being the villain of the story. And I think that works so well and everything. And that's sort of what I was wanting from this movie, was that he sort of, because he is a villain. He's a villain. I don't know how else to say that. He's a bad guy, and that he's under this nice guy persona, and he's kept this slave who's doing the bidding that he wants, and it's awful. It's awful what he's doing.
I didn't, it's so interesting. I didn't go that dark with it at all.
Mm-hmm.
To me, like, I could relate to him and her.
Mm-hmm. I thought the genius of it was the fact that he was the protagonist, and that you're in his shoes, and you're seeing his perspective, and you understand his perspective. And it's not like a great villain. You understand what they're why that they're doing it. And so that's where I was like, I found that to be, I wanted that sort of twist to be a larger sort of twist of the thing, is like the person that you're watching and the person that you're rooting for in like these rom-com scenarios could possibly be this predator who's awful and does awful things. And I thought that they went for it in a way that, and yet they undercut it by just having a little happier of an ending, even though it's left ambiguous. That, I don't know, that was my interpretation of the film.
That's so fascinating to me. It's like you almost wanted to make it into a horror movie.
Only we could have naked dancing women with blood all over missing
not being a horror movie. It's like the complexity, that she's when he's not writing her, she's a complex human being like he is. And that to me is more interesting than, okay, over here is a monster, and over here is someone who's not a monster. So that's fascinating. That's really fascinating.
And I think telling it from her perspective would make it very clear that this is not an okay thing. He's changing aspects of herself.
From her perspective.
What?
The entire movie should have been just from her perspective.
No, I don't think so.
Wait.
I don't think it should.
The same movie then. Yeah, you're
I don't think it. I think that you do a shift there, and I think and the movie does that to a certain extent. It's like they start to humanize her, and I was wanting a little bit more of that and they sprinkle it. They almost hint at it at times where she's getting more and more scenes by herself, with like when she's with Annette Bening and when she's with these different things, and it's sort of sprinkling out that you're getting this perspective. And I was so ready for the film to shift into sort of being like her figuring out why this is the case, and like that was a much more.
Yeah, why are you saying, Cade, that you wanted to see, like, because women do that? They try to please men. They try to be the person, right?
Yes.
Again, it's not exclusive male female, but culturally, right? It's the woman is supposed to adjust to the man, and that's what the Pygmalion thing is all about, right? So are you saying you wanted to see her? I'm not quite sure what your point is. What did you want to see her do?
I wanted to see her come to terms with that.
She's feeding into that.
Yes, in the fact, and like just exploring
so you wanted
why.
her to come to life.
That would be like part 2 to me. That would be like the sequel.
Yeah,
it's kind of like if you want to do Frankenstein, only Ruby's going to be Frankenstein, and Dano is going to be the doctor, right? There is a transition. Remember when Frankenstein becomes like a living, breathing person, and the villagers try to kill him, and
Frankenstein, the Dr. Frankenstein is the villain of Frankenstein. He is, a very fascinating character, one of the greatest characters ever.
And he gets killed by his creation. I think that's what, Cade, that's what you're looking for, is the Frankenstein story. Right?
Sure. I enjoyed it.
That movie.
Can I say my favorite part though was and maybe this isn't a good thing. My favorite part is when he writes, "She is miserable without me."
I know.
Montages her clinging and clinging.
They got the movies that she's hanging on him.
That woman at times. Not very long for me, but that's when I think he realizes the Frankenstein monster, right? That she's like all over him. It's like,
yes.
I did laugh when he crosses the street, right, and takes a phone call, and she's on the other side going, you didn't even notice I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I think every relationship gets
really
to that
goes
point.
off the rails, and it's like, oh my God. I did find that very humorous. There were humorous things in it. The other thing was, what was it, Mindcest? The brother says, what are you going to do, marry her? He goes, isn't that like Mindcest or something?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
So, I just really liked the writing. Before I knew it was a female writer, by the way.
Yes.
I really liked the writing.
Well, yeah. I knew he wrote it going into watching the movie, and I didn't expect it to be Frankenstein at all. So what really surprised me, though, it's a romantic fantasy, right? I kind of expected her to not be real to other people. I think that's where, that kind of where it kind of went off the rails a little bit for me. Because if you really,
I like that too.
I liked it too. I
love that she's interacting with all these other people, but that also, takes away from the fact that she's his creation in his own mind,
Yeah, it's. I think it makes it border a little bit more on what, I don't know, some sort of fantasy, some sort of sci-fi kind of. There's no real sci-fi to it. There's no technical sci. Yeah, a fantasy movie.
Listed as a romantic fantasy.
Yeah, which I think that at first, you assume that that's the case, and I love movies that go into have a weird plot and go into the sort of mechanics of that and the sort of and what does that actually entail, I love that whenever that stuff's not glossed over. It goes through the processes of what a normal human would go in this sort of scenario in which they're they're not real, I'm losing my mind, and then it's no, and then it's introducing them to the interaction with strangers, and it's well, maybe it's not because she's interacting with these people and I got to bring in someone that I know, and then and they're talking about, well, maybe she's someone who read the manuscript that stole this identity, all the things that an audience member is already well, how is this being possible? And they just mark out, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. So it's just some sort of supernatural thing. And you just, by that point, you're on board with it because they've marked off all the possible things on the list that a normal person would have. And so anytime that they treat stuff like that with real logic, I love in a movie, and I love that when they go throughout all that, and it makes it fun, it makes it an engaging watch. I liked that part.
And it's an exaggeration, right? Mm-hmm. It's a way to exaggerate what happens in relationships to explore it. That was how I took it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I liked.
I would have liked more of the family stuff, right? Because that's where I don't know that he as a character realizes it, but I think he does. But the mother paints, and that's how he created the her. Mm-hmm. Ruby, she paints, as right? And then the idea where he said something about my mother's so different now, right? Yes. I think she was brainwashed, and it's well, who was really brainwashed and who wasn't? I found that. So I would have liked more of that. And then Antonio Banderas being such an assertive, controlling, kind of presence, and the the main character shrinking from that, it just brought out his insecurities and his, etc.
So I would, like to talk about, that the fact that they're dealing with the same sort of theme of that, she's perhaps shaping to him, or that maybe even she shaped to his father more of because there's even sort of discussions that she changed her personality for him, or as well to be the polo wearing meat eater or whatever. They have even photos of that that. So that happened, and that I would have liked some more exploration of that, but because part of me is is the same thing happening with Antonio Banderas with his mother, where he's making her into some sort of way. Because then you have even more of a Pygmalion, he's a wood carver, and Pygmalion was, he was a sculptor, and there was a whole weird thing about the study too that was set up, don't go in the study.
I'm re-alphabetizing it.
I know.
Yeah.
It's is that a joke? How do you re-alphabetize?
Yeah. And so is there something there where he has a similar situation as a typewriter where he can make things happen, but it's in the study, or it makes you wonder.
Kind of left hanging.
Yeah.
That was definitely.
Or maybe it's the opposite, that like she's made this thing with him, and he's the fantasy sort of thing that she wants. Like, I mean, like there were some things there that I'm like, oh, maybe there's something there with it, because like even those references that she's changed for the person, but even that can just be thematic reasons, setting that up, that people change for their people that they love. And
his brother alluded to it as well, changing for his wife, and how his wife was different, and how they'd broken up, but she'd come back, and that. So it's like all throughout the movie, it's this reoccurrence of relationship, and who's in charge of the relationship and who's changing for the relationship. And I
thought it was interesting that the brother character was such a bore, right? But he almost had the most healthy relationship in the whole movie, right? Like he understood that there were things that bothered him about his wife, but that's the way it is. And so I found that fascinating. Then he would, be crude and all that kind of stuff. So I thought he was a very interesting character.
I did too. All of the men in this movie had a little extra dose of testosterone, with the exception of Paul Dano's character, in my opinion. What was the guy Steve Coogan who played Langdon?
I love Steve Coogan. Anytime Steve Coogan's in a movie, and he picks the best roles, and he does such a great job. I love Steve Coogan and everything. He
plays the guy who manipulates women.
Yes.
Yeah, he uses
that exists in any of those riding circles, like that character. That's totally 110% a person. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So everyone in this movie has kind of an underlying relationship phobia in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Or dysfunction. Let me put it that way instead.
Yes.
Yeah, I love this movie, and I can tell you right now, if you had put J-Lo in the lead and Matthew McConaughey as the protagonist, you probably would have sold $100 million worth of tickets. It would have been.
Matthew McConaughey couldn't have played Paul. I mean, Paul Dano had to look like Paul Dano.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm. Basically, what I'm saying is, if you had A-list stars in this, and A24 wasn't the distributor, you would have had a blockbuster.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, if you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, no way of knowing if it would have, but maybe it would have. Yeah, I mean, it would have. It would have had huge box office with the right,
And they didn't kill the dog. I got to tell you, I was worried.
That was
about the dog.
Well, that when they return to the home and they can't find him, like that happened several times in the movie. Where they're like, Scotty, where are you? And it's like, Jesus Christ, are we going to do this? It's like, but no, and then it's never anything.
No, don't kill the pets. But I think about halfway through, I stopped worrying about him, because I realized he was, he was a projection of Paul, right? The Antonio Banderas holds him and imitates him, and Paul gets upset. It's like, don't tease him. It's like, don't tease me, right? So,
and that was set up with the therapist even too.
Stay around for a while.
That was set up with the psychologist he goes to, where he's like, he kind of like says that because he sees himself in that sort of way, and then they're like, we'll find you a person who like accepts him for who he is, and so like that had been set up like he is almost like but I
was worried at the beginning, and then I snickered when he said about the dog peeing like a girl, and that made Paul feel insecure.
Yes.
Insecure. But that was pretty funny.
Yes, there's a lot of things I like.
True. I've known people like that. I've known people where the dog is not, a big
macho
the dog is an extension of themselves, right? So if the dog isn't assertive or strong or whatever, it's like a reflection on them.
Right.
It's like, so.
Ollie, they're talking about you, buddy. Do you pee like a girl sometimes? No? Okay. Do you hike your leg every time, bub? Do you not care? I would say Ollie doesn't care. He doesn't really care how any dog pees. He just wants to smell the pee.
I liked
like
the Can It Be Bad? I thought was a fun little, in that sort of his writer's block of like, you're thinking, oh God, it's going to be a movie with this, but it's like, it gets over that real quick, and it's, but I thought that was
Cade? I'm sorry, I missed that. Can it be
bad? Can it be bad? That where he asked that from the therapist, asked if it could be bad.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Yes.
That like, because when he gave him the thing, because like that was his biggest thing. He had this intense amount of pressure from the success of his last book, that he was that was the biggest thing that caused him to have this writer's block, was that like the idea of that what he was going to write would be bad, and that I think rings true for a lot of writers, is that's perhaps what they're most scared of, is that what they're going to make is going to be awful, and him given the permission to write something that wasn't going to be good, opened him up to things, and then opened him up to this sort of relationship and everything like that. So I don't know. And then
in the interviews, going back to Diane's point about the set and the production values, the white, that sterile environment was supposed to be his focus on perfection and wanting everything to be perfect. And of course, relationships they're messy, right? People are complex and messy, but that's why it was so simplistic. And then I really like the scene where, and I think it's right after he, like, that breaking point where it shifts, and he's like, and that shot is like, I don't know if you remember it, but it's all white. He's kind of over on the right of the frame, and he slumps back. And just that, I thought that was very impactful and got the point across.
Oh, that was a beautiful house. I don't know what that says about me. I thought that was what I wrote down. I said, this is an absolutely beautiful house. And then I thought that the mother's house was god awful. I can't stand anybody who lives with that.
Yeah, I love both of them. I could see the beauty in both of them. I don't know what that says about me.
I was with you on that one, Ava, but I did. I agree with you on that. I love both of them, but
I love the pool and the tree house. I did like that sort of thing of her thing. That was pretty cool, kind of a cool. The tree house was kind of cool, just in the middle of wherever she is in yeah.
Big Sur.
I think
Big Sur, yes.
The locations added to the characters, and they became part of the characters quite a bit. What did you think of the soundtrack? I love the soundtrack, by the way.
I don't think I noticed it.
I didn't notice it either. I must say, I was the same. I'm glad you said that, because I would have been like, yeah, but no, I did not notice. I didn't notice.
Sometimes the best soundtracks are the ones you don't notice. Mm-hmm. But I would definitely download this one and listen to it on the plane while I'm waiting for it to take off, to calm me. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and listen to it more closely.
Yeah.
I love the device of the French. The brother says, make her do something, and so she speaks fluent French, and they come down and she's speaking fluent French.
Yeah.
I like that device too.
She must have, I guess, took French or something and knew, so she wrote to her strengths, I guess, is what I would assume. Because I know I wouldn't write me a character that's like, he's going to speak fluent French, and I'm like, because I'm going to be like, I wouldn't write myself in that situation.
She had to use something she already knew. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and if you notice in the soundtrack, while he tells her to speak French, it's because in the soundtrack, their music that's
the music's playing. Yeah, okay. I heard that one. Yes, yeah, that was good.
So that's why you picked French.
Well, I think she's so interesting character in real life too. She's third generation film theater.
Yeah, screenwriters. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely in her blood. Yes,
and then just the whole. Everybody in this film is some sort of artist of some sort, and in some situations that can be annoying, of every character being some sort of head in the clouds artist. But I do think that it worked in this situation, because it was kind of about the interpersonal. It came up a little bit, but rarely. I thought standout scenes. I really did like that conversation with his ex. I didn't think the movie was going to have that. Like they had sort of brought up the ex a lot, but I didn't ever think that we were building to that to ever happen. And so when that came out of the blue, I was like, oh, and it kind of informed that character a lot more to have someone else's perspective on that story.
Shot of realism.
Yeah.
Because
I was hoping that we would see her because it's your ex that tells you how you failed in a relationship.
Well, and it goes to show how
to hear it.
Somebody else, like if you just hear about the way people talk about like their exes, and it's like they boil it down to one horrible thing that they did, and they in this situation, she left me when my father died, and like and that's all that you get from that character, and you're like, well, that does sound horrible, and that's how people describe their exes of some sort of like they did some here's the thing that's just as god awful, and obviously they had to have done good things because they were with them for years and years of time, but they take out all the context and say here's the thing that they did.
It's kind of the deal breaker. I could sort of relate to that. I mean, I was with somebody when my father died, and they didn't leave me, but he just didn't have the skills, afterwards. That was, part of the, I wouldn't say it didn't cause our breakup, but it was kind of part of it. It was like, he just didn't have the skills to deal with it or to, so it's like, what could he handle in the future? And didn't make me, of course, dislike him or anything like that. Not like in this movie, but I can totally, relate to what you're saying, Cade. It's like, it's like, it's a moment, right? It's one of those moments or deal breakers, or it becomes a deal breaker or something like, something to that effect.
Well, and it's a way of boiling it down to like, it's the way of him saying this person's horrible. Here's an example, and you really can't dispute examples of like, because like, and you see that often with people of like, they've been with the person for years and years, and then they obviously were in love and doing all, but then like, and then later they explain them as just being awful, and like it's like here's an example of that, and it's just like but you're overlooking. Yes.
It and move on, right?
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Like the defense mechanism. It's like if she's horrible, then it's
easier.
Better off without her.
Yes.
If she was any better, I would still want to be with her.
Exactly.
And it's not my fault.
It's not my fault. Exactly.
It's not my fault.
Not my fault. It's hers. It's all her.
Yes. Yeah. And so getting that other perspective of it, I thought was like, oh, okay. I didn't think we were doing that, but I'm very, very happy that happened. And I thought that was a really, really, really good scene that happened.
Yeah, because you couldn't get it from Ruby because he wrote Ruby.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You had to get it from a real human.
Yes.
Female that he was involved with.
Cade, going back to you asked how we knew each other. I'll just tell you this. Diane is my queen, and I am her lady in waiting. And she keeps wanting to promote me to queen, and I just don't want the responsibility. So I don't know what that tells you, but she is definitely a huge mentor and an amazing friend of mine. So I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wrote a short story for Ava one time for her birthday, where she was the queen. So let's not forget, you were crowned.
I know, but you're just such a much better queen.
I
such a benevolent one. So, see, I just won't take the mantle. I
keep trying to give it away, too.
Keep trying to give it away. It's like, nope. Well, thank you for not that we're ending. Just I wanted to make sure to say that before we go.
Yes. I guess we'll go ahead and we need to rate these things. I think we're running over schedule a little bit here tonight, but that's fine.
We really are.
Yeah. Yeah, Diane. Well, tomorrow's a holiday, right?
4 glasses of red wine.
4 glasses of red wine. I have to get that for you.
Red wine. Okay, so I bought this wine glass in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And the wine is from New Zealand. And it's a red, which was all in Ruby Sparks. They would always drink red. So
okay. Ava, what are you going to give this?
I'm going to give it 4.5. I would have given it 4, but I'm giving it a half for not killing the dog.
Great.
Yeah, you can't do halves.
Well, you could do stars.
Verbally.
I can verbally. I'll just do it like I'll give her stars. We'll just do that, and then I
would have given it 5 if he had met a girl at the end that wasn't her.
Yeah,
I would have. Yeah,
like just somebody else.
The ending had been more sad, shown more growth on his part, and her part for that matter.
Exactly,
would have.
Yeah, or what that character is like now that she's free, right? Is that the character? Like, then just sort of that sort of like, if
she didn't know who he was.
She didn't know who, I agree. That's not, I don't think it's her either. So like, where's this character at now that he's supposedly free? I mean, like there was a way to make it where it was ambiguous that she even existed. They obviously did not do that route. So she definitely does exist. And so now that she's free, what is she doing with her life? She's the title character of this movie. Let's not forget. I did enjoy this. I did enjoy this movie though a lot. It obviously wasn't exactly what I would have done, but no, I enjoy a vision, and they had a vision, and everyone involved was all that. That being said, I just was boring and did a little writing notepad because I didn't have any. But I did enjoy this movie. There's no typewriter emoji.
Oh my gosh!
I thought that was surprising. Or at least whenever I was like looking up typewriter things, there wasn't a typewriter. Yeah. I don't believe there's a typewriter emoji because I did look it up.
He switched to
when
a laptop.
When I saw the typewriter in the movie, I was like, "How old is this movie?" I know, right at the beginning.
There's a computer keyboard emoji that I could use.
I don't know.
There's a Rolodex that they're trying to tell me to use. Yeah.
I just want to make sure to tell people don't dismiss it like I did just on the face of the couple sentences, because I would have missed it if it wasn't for you guys. So, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
I did too. I was really glad that I watched it because I thought, this is exactly the kind of movie when I'm looking for a lighthearted romantic comedy that isn't just fluff, that I really want to watch.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the movie. This is it. And I wish that somebody had told me that.
Interesting movie. Yeah. An interesting, intelligently written movie.
Yeah.
Writing is the primary thing for me. I know as a filmmaker, Cade, I'm sure it's everything, right? But for me, it's the writing's got to be there.
Yes, and I thought that we talked a little bit about that. I mean, themes get me, and I like that this had a lot of really cool, interesting themes about relationships, and it explored it really well. And it didn't end. I mean, to be clear here, when I say I wish it would have done something, I think it didn't end horribly. Like it wasn't like it was like off-puttingly bad, or that did a cop out or anything like that. I just it ended interesting. I mean, I think it was interesting ending, and it wouldn't have been what I was expecting, but I do think that it was also it was good.
Not to bring up another movie, but I'm going to bring up another movie real quick. I was thinking you guys were talking about your favorite rom-coms, and I had to think about it a while, but it's Crossing Delancey. And I think Crossing Delancey, the end of that movie it's not pat, right? It's not like they had so much trouble getting to that ending, but it still wasn't clear. It's like there was a lot of hope there, and they had really worked at it from their opposite sides of the thing. But so I agree that the ending didn't have to be. I didn't not like the ending because it didn't end like a rom-com ends. I just wanted, I think, just a little more.
Yeah.
I won't beat it to death, but yes. I would have liked a more somehow growth at the ending. But it wasn't a bad ending, I agree. It was far from a bad ending.
And I had seen, she does, like, Zoe, she's, that seemed like her roles that she's often given is like romantic, or female lead of a romantic movie. Like she's done, we watched one with What If, that she was in.
And I enjoyed that movie a lot too.
Yeah, and it was much more, I think, of a romantic comedy. It was more comedy focused,
yes.
And then, but I think the ending, that one,
more formula.
The ending hurt it. I think that was one where the ending was like it worked against what it was doing. And then
the Big Sick.
The Big Sick.
I was about
to mention that. Yeah.
Movie, I thought. Yeah.
And if you haven't seen that, Diane, that was what I was going to mention. If you haven't seen that movie, that's a good romantic comedy where she's the star.
That is a really good one.
Okay, so we've all seen it. Yes,
good.
Good.
These are the kind of movies that when you're just looking for something light that you want to watch, and it's not Hallmark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I really liked its depth, though. It's not like you say, it wasn't fluff. I really liked this movie because it was deep.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I wouldn't call it a rom-com, because rom-coms usually aren't that deep.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a romantic fantasy.
Mm-hmm. I think that'd be more accurate.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're going to pick our movies for next week here. Let's go into preview time.
Oh, the pressure.
No more, please. No more.
And now, preview time. When it comes to entertainment, you can't beat a good film. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
When it comes to entertainment, you just can't beat a good film. Well, I do want to quickly announce, though, since we have not announced this to a public, that this is 14th episode of Double Feature Movie Club. Next week will be our 15th episode. We will be taking a short hiatus in the middle for summer. Sorry, Ava, our biggest fan. So we'll take a short hiatus, and then we'll be back for another 15 at the end. So not too long of a hiatus. I think we'll be back if that works out, I think in like August or something. So that will be a little bit of a break of or whatever that'd be, 2 months. Almost. So a little bit of a break there. But yes, that will be, just wanted to announce that this is our, we'll have a mid-season break, because I think it'll still be called technically season 1 of Double Feature Movie Club. But yes, so pick strongly, everybody. So, because this will be the...
Be sure and like, rate us, and follow us.
I don't want to let my queen down, but wrong number.
Okay, Diane, start us off 1 through 20, and some good ones here. Like I said, mostly not horror, but you could hit horror. There's always a possibility.
Oh. If I do, can we switch to another one? 8. Number 8.
8. Well, this is a very this is a what I think they're what they call a very broad comedy. So you're getting a comedy, Diane.
As long as there's no shooting, I'm okay.
I don't even know why I put this on here. I had never seen it, so it would be interesting. It's called Clear History. It's on HBO Max. It's an HBO movie, and it stars Larry David and John Hamm. So,
that'll be fun.
It's called Clear History.
Clear History.
Mm-hmm. And so,
can I give my pick to Diane? Can she pick a number?
If Diane wants to, she can. She missed it this last time, so I think she can do it twice.
No, please. I have the worst luck. I do. That just blew my luck right there. So. I'm hoping and praying that all of your luck will be.
I used to have a birthday curse, Diane. Remember?
Oh, that's right. Pick anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Between 1 and 20.
1 through 20, yes.
17.
17. Okay. Another horror movie. No, it's not horror. It's not horror. You missed the horror. But it is another HBO movie, and we added this recently because it's gotten a lot of. I keep hearing different things about it, and more and more, even though I never heard of it before. We added this recently. It's called The Children Act, and it is Emma Thompson's the star of it, and it's like some real life kind of legislative thing. I don't know exactly the plot of it, but she's a senator, or she's some sort of thing. The Children
Act. Is it fiction?
It is a real. It's I believe it's based on. It's a true story. I'll look it up here. Oh, it's actually no. So it's not HBO. Ignore me when I said that. It looks like it's another A24 movie, by the way. So it will probably be on
Oh, she plays a judge.
She plays a judge. Okay, in England. So it's also not a very I didn't know much about it. I've purposely, it says, in the midst of a martial crisis, a high court judge must decide if she orders a life-saving blood transfusion for a teenager with cancer despite the family's refusal to accept medical treatment for religious reasons. So it's supposed to be real drama.
It's
well,
based
that's
on
what happened. My
a
last name in German means judge. That's what happened there.
Really? But it has Emma Thompson, Stanley Tucci's also in it. So supposed to be pretty good. And I believe,
yeah. Oh yeah, I think this will be good.
So we
It's
picked
playing on the movie channel.
Okay, good. Yeah.
It's from BBC Films.
Yes, I believe it was a kind of a mixed. Yeah, so it was it's also on Showtime, since you do have Showtime, because I think it was one of those weird.
It takes forever to load, if it loads at all. So
oh, really?
In fact, I gave up on the film this week that was on Showtime and went to Amazon just because I waited 30 minutes. They have a problem with their.
See, I buy my.
It has an odd interface too, I find.
Yeah. I buy my Showtime through Amazon, so that's how I do it.
So they're using their carrier. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we got a deal. Diane and I got a deal, so we can do that.
Oh, okay.
We get the deal.
Our deal was really cheap.
Okay, great. Yeah.
And we're watching The First Ladies together. See, so.
Okay. How far?
That one I don't have a problem with. It's just the movies.
Interesting. Yeah, I need to start watching that. I want to.
Excellent acting. Just really, really.
I love all those actresses. So yeah, I'm.
And even there are actresses that are playing them as children and as young adults, and they're all wonderful too.
So does it jump forward and backwards in time, or is it like chronological with their story, or it goes back and forth?
Yeah, a couple of the episodes have jumped kind of forward and back. I think they it starts out, correct me if I'm wrong, Diane, because it's been a while now since I saw the first one, but the first episode, they show them becoming First Lady. It's like the first day they're First Lady in the transition. And then they jump back. But I guess from then on, it's been pretty chronological. But they kind of sync them up, like they're showing the similarities in the impact they made, and how they made it, and etc. So yeah, really well done. Really, really well done.
It is really well done.
Yeah, I bet that. I love presidential history, and I love the actresses. I mean, I couldn't have picked three better actresses. I love Michelle Pfeiffer so much, and I love Gillian Anderson because X-Files, my favorite TV show ever. So
she is really transformed in this particular role.
Yeah,
the more so than I've ever seen. And I was wondering. In fact, I told David, I said, all the people who gave the girl wore the fat suit and
Renee Zellweger, I think you said.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Renee Zellweger for wearing a fat suit when she was doing this. What about Pam?
Mm-hmm.
Why are they not giving Jillian a hard time about wearing the teeth?
Yeah, they typically do. I remember
Nicole
Kidman with the nose. Everyone did the hours when they talked about Nicole Kidman's nose. That was the big conversation. So
Could they find an actress with a big nose?
Yeah.
And I'm going to get this actress wrong, and it's so horrible that I am. But there was a series, Franklin and Eleanor, years back. Excellent miniseries, though. But the actress that it's Jane something. It's not Jane Seymour. Jane Alexander. Does that sound familiar? Anyway, I didn't think anyone could do Eleanor better than that actress did, but Jillian just really knocks it out of the park.
Really? I'll tell you what she was really great in, and it was kind of one that got her a lot of things early on that kind of made her, people are like, oh, she can't do this new renaissance of Gillian Anderson's work, and that was when she did Great Expectations, when she played Miss Havisham. She was really, really good on that BBC adaptation of Great Expectations, and that was sort of that and The Fall were around the same time, and that was sort of the thing that kind of people were like, oh, they started putting her in more things around that, and that's sort of what's and then Hannibal, and then all that other stuff. That sort of.
Did you see the crime one that she did?
Yeah, The Fall was what.
The Fall.
Yeah, it was around the same time. Yeah, that was the two things that kind of relaunched her
Didn't
career.
she have a TV series that was on like network TV too, where she played this high-powered executive, and it didn't last very long, but it was really good. Her part was good. She's just an excellent actress. But
Yes.
but she does a great job, and really the male characters that they've cast, the men, they're really well suited for those roles too.
So who's playing Lyndon B. Johnson?
Oh,
no, he hasn't been in it.
Oh, sorry, not Lyndon. Sorry, who's playing Gerald Ford? Sorry, I messed that up completely. Who's playing Gerald Ford?
I'm going to say you know him. He's been in a lot of stuff.
I was going to say the same thing, but I can't remember. He's a really good actor too. And they make him, the hair and makeup too. They do a really
because Kiefer is
Aaron
FDR.
Eckhart.
Yeah.
Aaron Eckhart.
He does.
Oh, Aaron Eckhart. Okay. Yes, I love Aaron Eckhart.
He plays Gerald Ford, and he does a great job. Yeah.
Did you guys ever see Thank You for Smoking?
Kiefer, I would have never cast Kiefer in a million years, but he does a great job.
Really?
Again, they physically transform them too, so it makes it easier. But yeah, I think he does an excellent job. I didn't recognize the actor who plays Obama though, but he's
in a Handmaid's Tale. What is it?
Too dark for me. That's why I didn't recognize.
I don't watch that series, so yeah, he's the one he's in that, and I think that's where most of his fame comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And physically, he doesn't look like him as much, but he has his voice cadence. He has his voice down and his mannerisms, and yeah, just a really well done series.
Yeah, he plays in A Handmaid's Tale. That's what he plays in. And We Crashed. He was in Black Widow, but it's a really small role. Probably The Five, The Interceptor. He's been in a lot of stuff. I mean, he's got tons of credits.
Interesting.
54 credits. So he's been around a lot, but mainly in TV stuff. Looks like. He's in Doctor Who. You know what? He might be British. Yeah, and looking at this, he's British. Yeah. But yeah, he's got the...
You don't hear that in his voice at all.
Yeah, he's got the voice down.
Interesting. Well, cool.
But anyway.
We
cool. These are exciting. So can we ask Ava to come back next week?
Yeah.
She would watch these two movies.
Well, we also have a tradition to keep up here, Diane.
That's true.
That we definitely was intentional the last two times. So Diane and I do it solo on our every five, because we noticed that our 5th episode was when it was the two of us, and the 10th episode. So
I like that because that one is not funny, Diane. I'm sure it's good, but it's not funny.
Yeah, it doesn't seem funny. Drama. That'll be the one that I have to explain, which I don't have to do that very often, but
I'm terrible at explaining these movies. I'm just like, go watch them. I mean, why do we have to explain them? Damn.
Great. So yeah, that was Clear History and the Children Act. So it should be fun. Those should be real broad comedy, real deep drama. They're gonna really go well together. But yeah, no horror though. So that's a great way.
Yay.
And then
no horror.
Also, Diane, I think a fun thing would be like, I would love to, now that we've watched these 15 episodes, and we're 15 or 30 movies, I guess technically. I don't really count the first one because it's they were hand selected, they weren't at random, and they were also Diane wasn't in the first episode, so.
But I watched them.
Okay, and they're also, so it's a kind of an odd one. So, but anyways, top 5 movies that we've watched. Put together that list, and it could even include, maybe there'll be one for next week too. But because I want to see what, now that we've seen all these movies, what are our ones that were most recommended to our people, and which ones did we really like the most, and rank them.
Okay.
Yeah, and that'll be a fun segment. I know which
ones I've recommended to people away from the podcast.
Yeah. So make a list of which ones were your top top 5 and rank them, and we'll go through that next week. So a little tease for next week. Also this Wednesday, new Cade and Friends episode. So everyone be on the lookout for that.
Rate and like us.
Yes, and if you listen to this as a podcast, Double Feature Movie Club, write us a review too, and rate us and subscribe and all that stuff. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit the like button. And subscribe there too. Do all the things. Click all the buttons.
All the buttons. That's right.
Yeah. Great. Well, Ava.
Happy birthday, Ava.
Happy birthday, Ava.
Thank you. Thank you again.
And thanks for being on here. Yeah. Thanks for.
I'll be watching. That's.
Yes.
I'll be here.
Yes,
be there watching.
Yeah, all the comments. We enjoy your comments and everything, and we'll have to put them on the screen a little bit more too whenever you do that. Because now that I know you, I've met you now and everything. And you're really fun. I hope you enjoy being on here and everything too.
Oh yeah. No, it was lots of fun.
Great. Cool.
Anytime I can serve my queen.
Yes. Yeah. The goal is to get Diane a whole army by the end of this podcast.
That's my goal, is to have I have an army.
Yeah.
In my backyard, you can see the garden. Ava, the fairies are back.
Yeah.
My garden is back intact again.
Great.
Oh, that fountain. I have been to her house, Cade.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Great.
Cade has too. He's seen the fairy garden is now back and up and running, and the fairies have re-entered my life.
Excellent. No, I very much enjoyed it. I love talking movies. I was an only child, so lots of movies, lots of TV. You could even argue I was raised by TV. So.
Pretty sure Cade was too.
I was an only child, so I get that. I 100% get that. It's where my love of movies probably come from.
What is it about me that attracts only children?
Yeah, because our other contender for top fan is also a
only child.
Easily recruited.
Yeah,
that is, yeah, maybe. I don't know. They're pretty stubborn.
Great. Well, thanks for watching. Next week it's Clear History and the Children Act. So see you next week, everyone. Bye.
Hang up.
Bye.